All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Goldman. I'm a senior policy associate at Elliptic. We're a blockchain analytics company. Today I'm joined by Kunal. Welcome.
Thanks, Kate.
We have like 30 seconds here on stage, so we're going to keep it brief with the introductions. But Kunal, do you want to give us the quick, dirty and fast elevator pitch? What do you do based here in Toronto at KPMG?
For sure. I'll give a 10-second pitch. My
That's
name's
enough.
Kunal Bhasin. I'm a director in our advisory practice at KPMG in Canada. And I co-lead our crypto asset and blockchain practice alongside one of the partners in the firm. We do, a lot of times I've been asked, what does KPMG do? We work with institutional investors, financial services, regulators, and helping them engage with the crypto asset space securely.
So KPMG has been a strong proponent for a long time now. Web3, NFTs, DeFi, you guys are all in. Earlier this year, what was it, in February, you took maybe the biggest plunge yet, and you guys brought Bitcoin and ETH onto your corporate balance sheet. Walk me through, what were the conversations like and the back end? How did you convince your higher ups that this was a good idea? And risk management, like what were the conversations like on the back end?
It was an 8-month-long journey. Let me just start with that.
Yeah.
We started with the idea of how do we become a part of the crypto ecosystem? How do we convince everyone that, everyone in the crypto space, that KPMG is here to support them. We're part of the ecosystem. And for us, it wasn't really as an investment. It was more of, this is what we want to do to demonstrate to the traditional institutions that if they want to get into the crypto space, they can do it in a way at the institutional grade. And also telling the crypto native firms that if they want to engage with traditional institutions like KPMG, there's going to be a lot of due diligence involved. So what should they be prepared for? So for us, it was more about demonstrating that KPMG is part of the ecosystem and just pushing the agenda for the whole space. The discussion went this way. The first time we brought it up to our CFO, it's like, are you kidding me? But we literally...
You're fired.
Almost. But I had very, very good support from the team members in our practice. They had great ideas. They were good at what they do. And they really did a very appropriate due diligence, a deep dive into a lot of the vendors that we looked at the time. And we were able to convince our risk management that we've done our due diligence appropriately. And we also got them exposure to crypto assets via just having them deal with ledger wallets, having them deal with crypto asset wallets, showing them what it is like engaging with crypto assets, just so that they would not let us do it because we want to do it, but because they believe in it. And with that, I think that's why it's been a journey. We started with crypto assets, adding on our balance sheet with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then we moved on to NFT, and there's going to be more.
Yeah. I mean, having that from KPMG, it's an enormous signaling to the market, to institutional investors, to regulators, really the whole ecosystem. It's a special thing, and it's really cool to see. But so, I mean, it's good to see that it's more of like a long-term play. You guys aren't trying to, pump and dump or anything like that we see so often right now. And I mean, you and I have spoken about this before. Are we in a crypto winter or are we in a crypto spring cleaning? And so from your vantage point at KPMG, when you see things like Celsius happening, UST, Luna, all of these, what do we do about risk mitigation strategies in a post-Celsius world, in a post-Luna, Three Arrows? How do we think about the way that we're understanding our own risk strategies in a world that seems like it's kind of on fire right now, in the long term?
I do think it's crypto spring cleaning going on, no winter. I don't think we're in a winter anymore. But I think coming out of this whole spring cleaning, we're going to flesh out a lot of the bad actors in the space. You can't really mitigate the risk of bad actors if you're being misreported on some of the information that you're being asked. Due diligence is going to come out really strong. Like addressing the counterparty risk, addressing your concentration risk is going to be a big component of how institutions play in the space. You know, bro, trust me, it's not going to be enough as a collateral for giving out billions of dollars of loans in the future. So we've been talking about managing counterparty risks and updating your risk frameworks. What sort of due diligence should be done when you're either looking at it as an investment or if you're offering a new product or service in the crypto space. There's a lot of changes within our risk management framework that we also had to make as a firm at KPMG when we engaged in, when we bought Bitcoin and Ethereum and we bought the NFT, we implemented new policies within the firm as well. So a lot of those policies, procedures were being taken for granted before, and I think what has gone down in the last 60 to 90 days, it's going to help the ecosystem come out much stronger, much more mature. And I use this analogy, we all know what happened in 2008. Out of that, we had the Sarbanes-Oxley, the SOX, legislation come out, and that improved the maturity within the traditional institutions. What sort of financially audit reports do they need to look at? What sort of controls do they need to have in place? And a lot of that we're going to see coming out of this crypto spring cleaning, where the crypto native institutions are going to come out of it a lot more mature than they went in.
Yeah. We also saw the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau come out of the 2008 crash. And I think we're seeing a similar thing happening in crypto where you have regulators and all of a sudden they want to understand, how does this affect my constituency? And what are we going to do about it? And I think crypto has done, for better or worse, a really good job of kind of like taking care of each other and having an ecosystem where there really is like a strong emphasis on rooting out bad actors and trying to see like true good projects move forward. And that consumer protection angle coming in, absolutely. But regulation, we have to talk about it. Regulation by enforcement. Yeah, I know, everyone's favorite topic. But I think that really is like a strong emphasis on like the maturation of the space is going to be about how do we talk about this as grown-ups and how do we work with regulators and allow crypto to continue proliferating in a way that it isn't being hampered by regulation. I operate in the United States where the term regulation by enforcement, it comes in a lot, but I want to turn the emphasis towards Canada. Kunal, you're based here in Toronto, incredible city. It's my first time here in Toronto. But just quickly run through, what do you think the Canadian regulators are doing? And what are they doing well? What can the US maybe learn from you guys? And maybe anything that leaves a little room for improvement? I threw that one in there as a curveball. You don't have to answer the last piece.
No worries. So I do think every country's regulators can learn from some of the other countries' regulators, especially in the crypto space. Like there's things that the US regulators have got it right where the Canadian regulators are still struggling. But your question was, what can US regulators do that the Canadian regulators are getting it right? So stop politicizing what the crypto ecosystem has to do, right? We can talk about spot ETFs. We can talk about whether Bitcoin and Ethereum and other crypto assets are going to be regulated by the SEC or CFTC. Like there's legislations and bills being passed. I think one thing that we can all agree on is let's move past this politicization. Let's come up with more clarity for the space. And I think that's one of the things that the Canadian regulators did well, where they figured out, okay, what do we need in order to approve a spot ETF? We're going to look at it from a principle-based guidance rather than a restrictive guidance, and go deep into, okay, you can have a futures ETF, but not a spot ETF. I just think that's a little funny. But I think that's one thing that the US can definitely take away from Canadian firms.
I mean, what I'm hearing from you is less of a us versus them and more so, how can we work together? Regulators in crypto. It reminds me of back in the day when it felt like, it was banks versus fintechs. Only one will come out on top. And now, like slowly the rhetoric has evolved and people have kind of come to terms with the fact that no, these things serve like very different purposes. They can and should exist at the same time. Now we're seeing it with crypto and regulators. Luckily, there are some like pretty strong like pro-crypto regulators. But I mean, again, it's such a complex ecosystem, especially in the United States. So many different powers at hand. There's quite a bit of work to be done, but I think a lot of it boils down to misinformation, or maybe more so like a misunderstanding.
And education, I would say.
Education
if you
is
look
the
at
biggest piece.
Some of the initial sessions that went on in the US, the questions were like, do you even know what crypto is, right? But the most recent one, there were some intelligent questions from a lot of the senators across the states. So we've seen that education gap being closed. I don't think we're at a point where we need to explain to anyone what crypto is or what Bitcoin is. We're past that stage. Even in the Canadian environment, I know the regulators have been very receptive of institutions coming in and educating them. They're willing to ask the questions. They're willing to let the institutions come in with ideas of what they want to do in the space. And the regulators want to provide them with some sort of launch pad that allows them to play in the space as long as the consumer protection is being kept in mind. So I absolutely think education is a big gap that has been addressed, but I think there's a lot more, and the pace at which these industry is moving, it is phenomenal. Like, it's difficult for regulators to keep up with that. It's difficult for people like us that are living and breathing in the crypto world to keep up with everything that's going on. So I can only imagine how difficult it is for the regulators to keep up, and new risks creep up on us every single day.
And that's why I think having a name like KPMG sort of like put the seal of approval on crypto and really kind of go all in, it does go a long way, especially with regulators who are, wary, or they're reading the headlines. If you aren't fully educated or you aren't fully immersed in the ecosystem, it's understandable to be wary or to not sort of feel willingness to accept it. But when you see KPMG, when you see more and more entrants into the space and really just understand like the true market penetration, all of that does an enormous amount as far as pushing the needle forward and like really moving us. We've got about a minute and a half left. I want to talk about, end on a positive note. What are you excited for down the road? What can we expect out of KPMG in the post-spring cleaning?
I think one of the things that I'm excited about most personally is just the non-fungible technology and the progression that the NFT has made so far. I think we're going to see a lot more adoption of crypto wallets because of NFTs. A lot more people are going to buy ledger wallets or get some sort of crypto wallet, hardware wallet, just because they want to buy NFTs. And they want to engage with the space. And that's going to, in turn, get them into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other crypto assets. So that's one thing that I'm super excited about. Metaverse is another thing. I think that it's phenomenal. It's far out. We're not even like at a stage where we were, let's say, in 2013 or 2014, where Bitcoin was. But that's something that is exciting for us. And we're continuing to explore the different ways that KPMG can push the boundaries for crypto, Web3, and Metaverse. And we're trying to do our part by connecting all the dots between the traditional institutions, the crypto-native institutions, and the regulators, just to push the overall ecosystem forward. So very, very, looking forward to a lot of the new initiatives that we've been working on very hard at. And you're going to hear a lot more soon from KPMG.
Good. We're going to need a KPMG Metaverse headquarters so you guys can be with the Dubai regulators over in the Metaverse. But seriously, always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you again for joining me up here.
Thanks so much, Kate.